Hey, welcome to DMSN Tuesday Talk. Today, we're talking all things teleprompter. So, Lauren, the teleprompter is a tool that has recently become very portable, and it can become a public speaker's best friend. Sorry, Lauren, you're on mute.
Let's see. There we go.
There
Here
you
we
are.
are.
Hey, what's up, girl?
Yeah, awesome. Super excited to talk about teleprompters today. And what goes along with what Iki was saying, I mean, how many times when you're speaking or preaching have you tried to remember everything you have to say so you don't have to look down? Or if you have notes, try to make it not super obvious when you're looking at them, right?
Exactly. So today we'll cover hardware, software.
We're going to cover all of that, and we're going to talk about how to use teleprompters, all things teleprompters.
Okay, so let's get started here. We've only got 30 minutes. Let's look at hardware, shall we? So, for those of you who may be interested in or trying to figure out, is it worth buying a teleprompter? Well, there are a few options of teleprompters, and the first I want to just point out as we just quickly glance and move on is the commercial use of a teleprompter. These things were thousands of dollars of worth of equipment that you used to not be able to buy. They were only for professional studios and just was not affordable for a prosumer. But just like DSLRs quite a few years ago became a prosumer tool, so has these teleprompters very recently. So now you don't have to buy the commercial grade version one, but there are many other options available. For one of the first ones that I want to show you today is the teleprompter that you can use with your DSLR camera. So you would connect your camera up to this teleprompter and it would sit on your tripod. Let me give you a different view so you can kind of see. I'm using one right here. This is a teleprompter, and the DSLR camera is inside this reverse mirror and it's connected to this particular tripod. And this is what one of those guys looks like. I happen to have two. So if it looks like, hey, how come he's got so many? It's because I have two. This one sits at my home studio so I could do the work at home. And it looks like this. Your DSLR would sit on here, go into this guy. This umbrella hood will cover any light from reflecting on the mirror. And this part here will have the parts, the holes that you need, the thread size you need for a tripod. So that's how you use it. In fact, if you're looking close enough right now, you may be able to see that my umbrella hood is hanging a little low on one side of my camera there. See that? So that is one of the tricky things that you're going to have to work on as you're trying to fix your teleprompter. So that guy right there, and it costs about $160, anywhere from 160 to about 300 bucks, and you can purchase it right on Amazon. It's a good purchase.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I would add when I have an iPad teleprompter like Iki was talking about as well. I'm not using it right now, but I've got it here. So it's got a hood as well, and you put your iPad here in the front, and then you've got your hood here, and you attach it. But one thing that I have on here on the hood, I just have a little binder clip, and then I've put something behind it so that you can hook it down onto your tripod or something to kind of hold it in place. So that's something you
That's
might want to think
genius.
about too if you're trying to get it all together, right? So mine doesn't have that elastic yours has, Icky. So I have to try to do some
Genius.
extra things and get it to stay. So another option that we're talking about, Icky is showing you about iPad, different types of iPad teleprompters. If you only have an iPhone and you're like, well, I'm going to be close to whatever I'm talking about and I want to just have a small one there, there's another type that's just specifically for iPhones and you can use it in different areas. So this one I actually have, but I'm going to show you the version on Amazon. And this one's called the Little Prompter. So what I really like about this one is that it's very versatile. So you can tell it's not much bigger than your DSLR lens here. So it's pretty small. You've got your iPhone here on the tray, and this is putting it up into that reverse mirror that Icky was talking about. And then you can put it on a tripod and just have your little teleprompter there with your phone reflecting your text. Another thing that's really cool about this option that I wanted to point out is that it has the hardware to actually attach it to your computer itself. So if you don't want to put a DSLR camera behind the reverse mirror, you can just put your webcam behind the reverse mirror and it will capture from your webcam, and you can do the same thing. And so you can see how the hardware here just allows you to use these screws and just tighten it a little bit over your screen. And you can just use it right through this circle hole here is where your camera goes. And then it shoots through that reverse mirror. So this is a really cool option around that same price point that Iki was talking about, 160. And it's pretty reliable. It's not too big, really convenient and helpful to take anywhere. So if you're looking for a small, portable, practical option, that's another one that I would tell you about. I have found it to be super helpful, and it's only about this big, so it's pretty small when you're taking it with you. So it's pretty helpful. One last option that I want to mention. Did you want to add something, Iki?
Oh no, I was just saying how ingenious it is now. Like the different options you can have, the different layouts that will fit your particular device that you need, whether it's an iPhone or a DSLR or your computer, in fact, right?
Yeah, anything that you have. Yeah, definitely. Great point. Anything that you have, there's a teleprompter to work with it, definitely. The last thing that I wanted to say before we go on is one thing that you may already have that you can also use for a teleprompter is a TV screen or monitor. So this isn't a piece of hardware that you have to add to anything. You can use the actual equipment itself. So we'll show you a little bit later, but another teleprompter option is using your actual screen, positioning it in such a way behind your lens that you can use that as a teleprompter itself.
Yeah, that's excellent, right? And that may be something that you already have. Maybe you're at home and you're shooting from there. You can actually use your big screen TV. Of course, there are things that we should keep in mind, right, Lauren? Of how we're going to be using it. The usage of this is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing with that little prompter I was showing you that I really like, one thing you do have to consider is if you're going to be standing, I don't know, 10 to 20 feet away from it, it might not be the best option for you because it is little. So the farther away
if you're
you
eagle eye
get,
and your vision's amazing, sure. But
then it's the one for you.
Yeah, that's the one for you, right?
Yeah, so you're going to be possibly having a little bit of a hard time seeing if you're too far from that one. If you're going to be using it on your webcam, then it's no problem. But if you want to partner it with a DSLR, just keep in mind the screen is not too big. On the opposite side, if you're going to be using a TV, which we'll talk about later, the screen is so big that you have to make sure that your application is going to be the best that it can be. So we'll talk about that in a bit. But those are a couple things.
Yeah, they're great things to think about. As Lauren said, we'll mention a little bit later, but you got to think about your device, the lens, the iris, how much of the picture you're capturing, because if you get a large size teleprompter, it's not problematic. It's just that it's gonna you want to be able to. The whole point of this is being able to keep your eyes connected with your audience. If someone is watching, you want them to know that you're connected with them. And so if you're having to shift your eyes constantly, it's a little bit of a distraction, even though we've gotten used to it because that's just the way we've had to work this last few months. So let's talk a little bit about software and software that will complement your teleprompter. I've got a couple, and then Lauren, if you share a couple, that'll be great. Yeah.
Sure.
The ones that I use is Teleprompter Pad, which is the one actually that I tend to use the most. But I also have Teleprompter Premium, and it's about $19 a year for the premium. You can get the free light version that is usable, but it's got a lot of limitations. So you just think about that. If you're wanting something that's just going to scroll and stop and just do that, perfect. You can get that for free. There might be some advertisements that'll come along with it. But if you want something that's going to have a little bit more versatility to do a few more things, maybe save some files and maybe be able to do some other stuff that you wanted to do, you're going to want to pay a little bit for it. And that's about, so the Teleprompter Premium is $19 a year. The Teleprompter Pad app software comes with the actual Teleprompter Pad teleprompter. So the one that I'm using right now that's here connected to the DSLR came with the Teleprompter Pad, and that's the one that I'm using. What about you, Lauren?
Yeah, I like to use one. I have used one in the past called Prompt Smart. And so they have Prompt Smart Free and Prompt Smart Pro. And one of the features that has gotten this app a lot of recognition is the fact that it has voice detection. So when Iki talked about that scrolling, If you don't have something to scroll with, or you're like, oh, I can't quite get it right, I said it too fast or I said it too slow, they did come out with voice detection. So they can see how fast you're talking and see some of your talking habits and adjust it on the app to that. When I used it, I don't know that it's quite perfect yet, but it is a good option if you want to have that hands-free, different type of usage that just kind of does it itself. That is an option.
Yeah, just before we get to talking about manual or the auto script, I also want to mention that at the bare bones, if you're really just not wanting to purchase anything and you want to use what you have, you can use your Word doc, or you can use notes or whatever you're using to write your script out on, and then use your iPad or your mouse or trackpad to go ahead and scroll. I'm going to show you back to this view again really quick. You may see this. It may be a little hard to see, but on my actual display here, teleprompter display, we have a script that we're using right about there. And so I'm literally scrolling the script as we talk. We scripted it out intentionally today so that you can see it and use it as an example. And yeah, it's right there. So I'm using my trackpad just below me here to scroll it up and down and read as we go. So that is definitely an option if you wanted to do that. So let's talk really quick about the difference between a manual control or a auto scroll, pros and cons of that. So, Lauren, you use the auto scroll, the one with the voice activation?
It's been a while since I've used it. I have used it before, and I did find it to be more helpful than just setting the app to scroll by itself, because it takes too much time out of the production to sit there and fiddle with it and think, well, I think I want it a little bit faster. Let me test it. No, too fast. And then just to kind of get that speed right, it takes a lot of time out of the production.
Right. Now, if you're using it on just like manual, you'll kind of have to do like the presets for these and make sure that it's scrolling at a speed that is good for you. So I'll show you an example here just on my controllers. On this side over here, you'll have options for speed. You'll have options for text size. You'll have option for mirror mode. You want to make sure that you've got mirror mode on, because as a teleprompter, everything is reversed when you're looking at the screen. So when you do mirror mode, it'll switch it backwards on the teleprompter, but then as you see it, it'll be in the correct way. And of course, once you set the speed, it'll go at that particular speed rate, whatever the speed rate may be. It could be 26, 30, 40, depending on how fast you like to talk. Maybe some of you would like to slow it down a little bit, then you keep it at that particular pace. The last thing that you could also do is, say, for instance, with the teleprompter pad, you can use a remote. Or the teleprompter premium, you can use your phone as a remote. So using your phone as a remote will allow you to be able to control a stop and go. I love that about this, because I tend to script really fast, but sometimes I need to stop and explain something. And if I have to do that, then it messes up the flow of everything. So I'm able to just click a button, it stops. I'm going ranting, random side, detour, it has nothing to do with the sermon. Then when I want to come back, I just click it again and it scrolls right back up and it's going, and you've got a pretty good flow. So those are your basic three options. You could just set it and record and go. You could use the voice activation one and it'll scroll and follow with you, or you could try using a remote. The downside for a remote is you've got one more thing you've got to control. So if you like to stay focused and do this, and you're like, click the wrong button and it goes somewhere else, you're like, no, right? So everything has their pros and cons for you to use.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I really like about what you mentioned is the fact that having a remote is one extra thing, but the fact that you can use your phone as a remote is really cool, because it is one extra thing during production, but another remote is an extra thing just in your office that you have to keep track of, and it's just a lot more equipment, right? But being able to multitask your equipment is always really cool.
Always really cool. That's a great piece for you, especially when you're thinking about your multitasking as a producer and as a speaker. Well, if you're at a place where people are producing you, sure, but most of us are recording our stuff at home, and you want to have the premium quality product that you're putting out there so that people can hear you well and see you well and connect with you well. So Lauren, let's go ahead and maybe show a little bit some tips and best practices for using a teleprompter while you're preaching or speaking.
Yeah, so when you talk about best practices, one thing that you have to keep in mind is as we talk about the different kinds of teleprompters, one thing is making sure that the teleprompter accomplishes its intended purpose, which makes it not obvious that you're reading something, right? If it
Yeah,
was going to be obvious, you would just have a piece of paper next to you. So,
right.
choosing the right size of teleprompter, choosing the right speed, the right text size, all of that stuff is going to be super helpful when you think about how to actually get the best use out of your teleprompter.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Um, can you show us maybe an example of like if they're looking at like you're using a TV screen, people may not see that, right? Could you
Yeah,
show
yeah.
maybe your TV screen and show like what's a good marking, reference for where they should be looking at via the camera?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me take this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you on my phone, right? So I'm going to switch my view over here to my TV. So this is what I have in front of me right now. So right here, I've got my DSLR camera on a tripod, and then I've got my TV here. So you'll see that I've got a bunch of other monitors, but we're focusing on the TV right now.
Yeah.
So if I move this out, what is you'll see this is a notes pad that we're reading from. Iki talked about our script a little bit earlier. So one thing to keep in mind when I'm using this TV, because what I mentioned earlier, because the TV is so big and because I'm in a little bit of a smaller room, the TV is really close behind the camera, which is pretty close to me as well. So it's going to be pretty obvious if I'm looking even a couple inches away from the camera lens. So generally, the best thing to do is to try to put it as much behind your camera as possible. Ideally, the text size should be a little bit bigger so that the words don't get quite as covered behind the tripod itself. And then you can just, I've got my mouse down here, then you can just scroll and then you can just follow along as you're doing it on your own screen. But keep in mind, maybe over here is okay, over here's a little bit okay, but even if you get as far as over here, it's going to be a little bit more obvious that your eyes are tracking differently. If you have something over here, it's going to be really obvious. It's going to look like you're looking to the whole other side. So keep in mind just maybe a few inches either side, but even directly behind the camera is going to probably be the best option if you can still see it.
Mm, very good, very good. If you make it too wide, they're going to be able to tell that you're shifting your eyes, which is not
Yeah.
like the biggest sin today because people are used to it. But if you want to have the maximum amount of connectivity with people, you want to make sure that it's in line with the camera. So here's a little pro tip for all of you who might be using it. If you're going to script it out on a dock, make sure that you size it up and then you shrink it to stay within the camera lens so that you're reading it, but it's keeping you here. And then your eyes will be able to stay focused on the camera.
Yeah.
If you're looking at our script, you'll notice that our script is very thin. It stays within the borders of our lens, and we're able to read through. So that's one tip for you that you can use either on a teleprompter app or you could use it on the dock, and it'll be smooth for you using in the future. A couple other things that you might want to do. Make sure that your lens stays clean. Don't get it scratched. Make sure that the cleaner it is, the better vision you'll have. Where I'm using the Lumix G7, which colors tend to run a little bit darker. So coming through the glass is one more distortion. I've got to make sure that this glass is as clean as possible so that it does not impede the actual picture that's coming out. Make sure that you frame it right. If you look at mine here, you'll notice that this is the iPad just in here, and I've got the iPad 12. So if you're looking at it, it's a large iPad. You want to make sure that you adjust the mirror beforehand so that people don't see that in the actual frame of your shot. And there's a couple of tricks that I use it for that I'll share with you right now. I don't just use it for scripting sermons or talks. I also use it as a display monitor when I'm on Zoom or when I'm doing a presentation so that I don't have to take my eyes off of the camera to look at my display monitor. And I'll pop back to this picture here. If you're looking at my screen here, you'll notice that this is mimicking my actual screen. So over here to my left is my monitor, my computer to monitor. This is what I see on my computer. It is shot onto here, and it's the exact mirrors. So it's the exact same thing. So I never have to look away from the camera to see things. This is a really cool thing to do because now I can control the majority of the functions while I'm talking to you. It's as if somebody embedded your camera right into your computer screen, so you never have to look away. I use Air Display for this, and the reason why I use the Air Display web app is because you can use Sidecar in Macs, but Sidecar allows you to mirror exactly what's on your screen. It does not allow you to reverse the picture. So while you're looking it on your screen, it'll always be reversed. While Air Display allows you to either flip the picture upside down or reverse the picture so that when you're looking at it, it's in the correct format that you need it in. So this is a great little tip to use. It's great for Bible studies. It's great for counseling sessions. If you're doing a video counseling session, as many of us have had to these past few months, you use this trick because then you can read the documents or the files that you need to read on the couple or for the study while keeping your eyes focused on the people before you. It's really, really just a neat little trick. Those are the two different apps that I use. Lauren, I don't know if you have one that you prefer.
Yeah, well, actually, I use Air Display too.
Very
So
cool.
what I like about that, yeah, it's been really helpful. And I did show the teleprompter I have earlier, although it's not connected on my tripod right now. I have used it, and I've done much of what you've done, Iki, where if I'm on a Zoom meeting and I want to use my DSLR camera, I put the teleprompter up with my iPad. What I've noticed is that I don't have an iPad 12 like you do. I have an iPad mini. And so it doesn't, if I have a Zoom meeting and I'm trying to see all the little squares, it can be a little bit difficult. So it depends what I'm using it for. What I like about Air Display too is that I actually use it as a separate display. So rather
Oh
than
yeah.
mirroring, I have some separate stuff on my monitor that you guys saw. And then if I want to put something different on the iPad, something different on my laptop, I can use them all as separate displays. So that's a pretty cool thing that it allows you to do as well.
Yes, yes. There's so much functionality for a tripod. Now,
Yeah.
not a tripod, a teleprompter. One of the things about a teleprompter is it's a little clunky. So it's large. If you're going to use it in conjunction with your cameras, but you don't have to get a DSLR. You could use something as small as something for your iPhone. You can use it for your computer, just like the little one Lauren showed you. But with those, it's harder to use it as an actual computer display screen. Have you tried that,
Mhm.
Lauren?
Using the teleprompter with the computer as a
Mm-hmm.
display as well.
Mm-hmm.
No, I haven't. I haven't connected it to the computer yet. I don't know. I mean, you may be able to. If you use the cable to the iPad, you can still use it that way. Um, I don't see why not. I haven't tried it.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of just show you real quick my setup and how it works. So if you're looking, never mind all this stuff. I know it takes a lot of stuff, and there seems to be a lot of equipment in here. You don't worry about that. You don't have to have all of this equipment to do your thing. You could be real, like straight and to the point, and collect as you go. But what I do is I have my 12-inch iPad in here, and it's faced up so that the picture is the bottom and then the top is on this side, and it mirrors up this way. Then I connect it to for me it's a lightning port. Whatever you use for your tablet is fine. This is a lightning port. It goes directly into my computer, which is back behind me, because before I was sitting that way, facing that way. I would face this way, and the camera would shoot against this blackboard back here. But I'm on the standing desk, so this guy goes straight into the computer. I turn on Air Display, and once I have Air Display on, I'm able to set the functions so that it looks the way it does. And now, Lauren and I are looking straight down the camera lens, and it looks like we're focused on you while we're reading our scripts, while we're using multitasking for other stuff, and it's just a great tool to have. So if you happen to have $150 to $300 saved away for a cool tool that you would like to use, I really think that this one is the one you would enjoy, and it would be most useful as a speaker as well as somebody who's doing a lot of video content with engagement on Zoom or online or whatnot. What do you think, Lauren?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things that once you start using it, it's really hard not to.
Yeah. Now it is one more thing to set up and get right, but once you got it, you got it. You can put it on a tripod. You can put it on one of these Gorilla Pods. It's a really good, useful thing. You just got to keep the lens clean, make sure it doesn't get scratched up, and you're good to go. So
Yeah, absolutely.
that's the teleprompter. Lauren, do you have anything else you want to share as we close out?
You know, one thing that came to mind is it is one additional tool, but if you have some equipment that you're taking, a lot of these teleprompters, like they'll have a carrying case, they'll have, so it is one extra thing, but they're not like, even though they're delicate, it's not super hard to take it with you. They do have carrying cases, and usually it's pretty easy to take along with you if you're okay with one more thing.
Sounds like a plan. All right, my friends, I think that's all we got for you today. That is Teleprompter 101, hardware, software, best practices, and tips for you to be on your way and become a better connected communicator online. Lauren?
Sounds good.
All right. We'll see you guys later.
See ya.